I'm Rachel Scott, and I'm the director of Y Yoga's Teachers College. And this is 5 minutes on how to protect your knee in pigeon pose. So, first a little backstory about your knee. Your knee is a hinged joint, like your elbow, which means that it likes to move in one direction. However, your knee is also a little bit special. And when it is bent, it has the capacity to rotate somewhat. So that's a really good thing in everyday life because we need that give to keep our knees safe. However, in yoga, where we're so mobile, sometimes that can cause us some problems. So, the most common way to injure the knee is to bring the knee into a position of extreme flexion, which means to bend it, and then to twist it, and then to add load onto it, which is, you guessed it, pigeon pose. So, in order to keep the knee really safe in pigeon pose, the most important thing that we can do is to treat it like a pure hinge joint. That means, like these blocks, just letting them go up and down rather than letting the knee twist. Everybody's hips are different, so everybody's pigeon is going to be different. And the most important thing is to find the pigeon that works for you. So let's take a look at it. From the most conservative pigeon pose, that would be having my heel really, really close to my hips. You can see that my thigh bone here is acting like a pure hinge joint. Here's my thigh, here's my tibia, and I keep those two things stacked. Now, as I start to externally rotate my thigh more, which means that this bone is gonna roll out, I'll start to bring my heel more and more forward until at its most extreme position, you can see that my thigh bone is facing that way, and so my tibia, my shin bone, has to be a little hinge like this. So at that point, I have pretty open hips here. Now, if you're doing this pose and your hips aren't open enough, right, then this bone is gonna start to roll in, which means that this area of your knee is gonna start to get compressed. So if you're doing this pose and you start to feel any sensation in your inner knee, that just means that the stretch is moving now into the rotation of your knee rather than staying in your hip. So that is a big sign to back out. We don't ever want any sensation in the knee. Sensation in the knee is a precursor to pain in the knee. So instead, back out of your pose, find a more moderate pigeon pose, and keep this knee in a pure hinge joint. So, just one more tip before we leave pigeon pose. You've probably heard the phrase, flex your foot to protect your knee. But the thing is that that's not always true. Okay, so take a look at this position, this more moderate position of pigeon pose. If I started to flex my foot, with it all the way back here, what I'm going to do is cause my shin bone to start to rotate. And as we've talked about, that is not a good thing. If I'm in the most extreme pigeon pose, here, where my thigh can be at a right angle, then flexing the foot to protect the knee is a-okay. But if you're like most people and your foot's a little further back, then flexing the foot to protect the knee actually could cause harm. So, rule number one, keeping your knee happy in pigeon pose. Treat the knee like a pure hinge joint. So take a look, line it on up, and make sure that it's really not twisting at all. And rule number two, no sensation ever in the knee. Make sure that all that sensation is going into your hip. Thanks, and happy practicing.